Warmth and affection are like medicine for your child's spirit. Join us for this important conversation today on Family Vision.
Hi, my name is Rienow. Welcome to Family Vision with my parents, Dr. Rob and Amy Rienow, strengthening families through practical, encouraging, and real conversations.
Rob and Amy Rienow here with Visionary Family Ministries. Today we're going to talk about the power of affection, the need for affection in our family relationships, especially with our kids. Two scriptures we talk a lot about here at VFM, Proverbs 23:26, "My son, give me your heart," and Malachi 4:6, "He will turn the hearts of fathers to their children and the hearts of children to their fathers."
So this topic of affection is one that I am very passionate about. The connection between affection and attachment is very, very significant. And I think I'm so passionate about it because in Western modern culture, and I would even go back to not just American culture, I would go back to English culture, but the Western culture has pushed in many ways this concept that children being able to be independent from their parents at young ages is somehow healthy and better. And nothing could be further from the truth, really. Children need their parents, and they need an affectionate, warm relationship with their parents. And when they don't have that, that will play out in many different ways. And you see it over and over again. I've worked with kids in many different settings, from behavior disorders to developmental disorders to in counseling and ministry. And this is a common theme. A lack of affection produces a lack of attachment, which has a negative impact on your child's life and all future relationships.
I liked what you said about the way culture is teaching us. I was recently speaking at an event for moms of preschoolers, and I said something that sort of rocked the mindset a little bit, that I said a small child, we're talking about preschoolers now, should have a level of separation anxiety. Right. Like if you drop them off with strangers and they're not thrilled, that's a good sign.
Right.
And actually, if you have a 2, 3, 4-year-old who's thrilled to leave you and go into strange places, I'm not saying that kid's messed up, but it's more healthy for the child to have a degree. What it means is they're attached to you, and
right.
They find their safety and security with you as a mom, and that's exactly what you want.
In fact, one of my early workshops that I attended after I got my degree and my first job was by a wonderful woman who was speaking specifically to help kids in adopted homes. She had adopted many kids herself. She was quite an expert on the subject. And she had spent so much time researching attachment, talking about attachment. In fact, most families who are going through an adoption process have been educated on attachment and affection in a way that, unfortunately, we do not talk about in our regular families who are just having kids. I don't think we stress this importance of this, and it's a burden that I have because we are seeing negative effects in our culture because of that lack of teaching. But one thing she would say was that she could not talk about her conclusions about the negative impact of daycare, what you were just talking about, like children who do not have that kind of affection or can't really have that same level of affection with a daycare worker, correct? I mean, they can be comforted. They can be comforted, but that is not the same thing. And she was talking about the negative impact of that. And she basically just came out and said, I can't publish any of this because it's not politically correct. I remember getting pressure, again, not a lot of pressure from my mom, but we were living with my parents when RW was born because our house was under construction. I had a bassinet in the room where he was sleeping, and then we had the crib in another room. And I still can remember, when are you going to put him in the crib? When are you going to put him in the crib? Like, isn't he old enough? And this is at 5 or 6 weeks that, we should put him in the crib now. He should sleep in his own space. Very, very interesting because my friends who came from the Korean culture, I had 2 close friends who were Korean, and they had this baby system hooked up right next to their bed. The concept was you keep them close so that they can be independent. But in contrast, we have sometimes in this culture demonized positive parental affection and even sibling affection and family affection, almost that it's a weakness in a way that is very strange. And at the same time, what we're seeing in public schools and a disturbing trend towards grooming, which is actually introducing sexual touch to young kids. It's abusive, in my opinion. And at the same time, acting like positive physical affection is somehow negative.
And as parents, we naturally understand the core of this. If you have a little child who gets physically hurt, they fall down and bang their knee, well, what do? You hold your child. You didn't fix their knee. They're still hurt, but you knew that showing that appropriate affection was going to help them. As adults, we do the same thing. You go to a friend who's experienced loss or emotional pain. What do you do when you see them? Well, you usually touch them, right? You probably hug them if they're a close friend and you say, I'm so sorry. I think this is especially true, the importance of affection, warmth, appropriate physical touch. For a child who is erratic or chaotic or emotional, or you may use ADHD as a label today. I was talking to some friends recently, and they were concerned about some erratic behavior from their child and asking the question, should we look into medication for them? And part of our conversation was, well, the first medicine they need is warmth, affection, and closeness with mom and dad. And this particular child was actually asking for that. So even in the middle of the day, hey, mom, can we cuddle? Can we sit on the couch? And like you said before, our culture says, well, that's weird. That kid's too old. They're elementary school. They don't need to sit on the couch and have a few minutes of cuddle time with mom. But the child was very appropriately asking for some medicine. They were feeling chaotic on the inside. They were feeling unstable on the inside. And the child knew that 5 minutes sitting next to mom on the couch was going to be a spiritual first aid for them, for what was going on inside.
That reminds me of another story from my own parenting. We had a situation in our first house, the first house that we bought, where we built a second level of 2 bedrooms, yet the master bedroom was on the first floor. And then we had a bedroom next to us, and then there was like a half bedroom that we used as a nursery. But the older kids were supposed to be at the upper level. Our oldest was maybe 7 or 8. And we set up those rooms, one for RW, one for Lissy. And we were probably like 3 or 4 months in and realized that they kept coming downstairs to sleep in JD's room. We had a bigger bunk bed in there. And we'd put them to bed up there and they'd come down there. They'd put up to bed and come down there because they wanted to be together, but more importantly, they wanted to be close to us on the master bedroom level. That distance felt too much to a child, even at that, what we would, in many ways in our culture, we would say 8 years old, that's an older age. And they wanted to be there. And we finally gave up and set up almost like an English nursery that became where all the kids had a bed in that room.
Like Lord of the Flies, basically.
Well, that wasn't. That's a negative connotation. This is like
I was thinking
more Peter Pan.
Okay.
Peter Pan.
Well, that's creepy
like
too.
Nana. It's not creepy. All right. There's positive.
Different. Okay.
Positive. Like, the dog was the protector, but there's but that nursery, like all the kids wanted to be there and they wanted to be close with us. But going on in this story, I remember a lot of parents will resonate with this. I had put Lainey to bed in that room in her little toddler bed, and I think she had moved even to the edge of the bunk bed, like sleeping at the bottom. Like the other 2 older kids were sleeping. I think it was JD and RW sleeping at the bottom bunk. Lissy, because that was a double. Lissy was in the single, and Lainey's sleeping like on top of the covers at the feet. And she is at that point, and parents will understand this, she's past comfort. She's entered that crying phase of complete hyperventilation. But I'm kind of in this mode as a mom, like I'm ready to draw the line. It's the Alamo here. Like I'm drawing the line. You are supposed to be going to bed. I'm not listening to this, and I'm being extremely firm. Okay. And it just keeps going. She just keeps escalating and escalating. And it's escalating to more of that level of hyperventilating and just complete stress. And I'm still trying to be extremely firm. Like, I'm not going to give in. And I'll never forget, like, our W walking in to where I was. Either I was in my room or I don't remember. He walks in, he just says, "This isn't going to work." Okay, you're right. Valid. And all she needed was me to come in there and cuddle her. And this is a lesson I want parents to hear, is that especially before the age of 5, your children's reasoning is not connected. The way they learn is through experience. It's the experiences that are teaching them. What she needed to know was that she was safe. What she needed to know was that she was not alone. What she needed to know was that I loved her. She needed the security of physical affection. And I came in and I cuddled her, and she could then go to sleep. Your kids need that from you. And it's not a weakness that they need it. They were designed to need it, and you are designed to be the one to give it.
Right. And as children get older, physical affection is going to look different. My 16-year-old daughter, our 16-year-old daughter, Millie, doesn't sit on my lap anymore, right? When she was a little girl, she would sit on my lap and we'd watch a show or read a book. Now, we still hug, and she may still cry on my shoulder when she needs to, but it looks different. And this is also why, I wish we had more time to talk about this, why anger is such a problem. Right? It breaks the heart connection. It breaks the warmth and closeness and security. We do a lot of podcasts on the subject of anger, so please go back to previous episodes for a deep dive on this, because we hear from parents, especially when it comes to bad behavior, yelling is the only thing that works, meaning it's the only way I get my kids to do stuff is with anger. And the problem is when we are parenting with anger, when we're yelling, it does get our kids to do things, but they do things with a hardened heart toward us. It breaks this warmth. It breaks this heart connection. And we've been talking a lot about physical.
And to add to that, the anger, what people don't understand is anger is the threat of violence. That's often why it works. Anger is scary. It makes a child feel that something physically is going to happen. And so therefore it changes their behavior. But I find it so interesting that we don't address what's really happening there. And anger, most often in these situations, is communicating that they are in a dangerous place. It's the threat of violence.
And this whole message, our encouragement to you to be pursuing affection in your home, the power of affection with your kids, the medicine of affection for your child's heart, it all comes from the example of God. He tells us over and over again how much he loves us and his affection toward us. Most famous verse in the whole Bible, for God so loved the world. 1 John 4:10, this is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. As you think about your mission as a parent, your purpose as a parent, why does God give us these kids? He gives us these kids to build a loving, heart-connected relationship with them in order to help them build a loving, heart-connected relationship with God.
Affection in your homes is one of the best things you can do to help your children have positive future relationships. We had talked about our son's wedding a couple podcasts ago, and I just wanted to bring it up again that one of the most incredible moments of that evening was when I had the mother-son dance with JD. He had told my daughter-in-law, she had asked him, JD, do you think that you will cry at any point today? And he said he thought he would cry when he saw Brooke, and he did. And he said he thought he'd cry when he danced with his mom. And that's because we've had a strong relationship, and affection has been a part of that. Affection was one of the ingredients that built that strong relationship. And that dance was so meaningful because through tears, he just kept saying, thank you, Mom, so much. You don't know how much I love you. Thank you so much, Mom, for everything you did to make this wedding, go so well. It was one of the most, meaningful parts of the night to me. And I just want to encourage those moms out there, especially in those older years with those teenagers. You are usually in the seat where you kind of have to let them direct when they want to give the hugs. We often as moms will feel like, oh, I could use a hug from my son, but they're in a different place. But be patient with it. That affection that you're giving will come back, and you're also going to get the joy of seeing them build an affectionate relationship with their wife and an affectionate relationship with your future grandchildren.
Yeah. And moms, if you have not already gotten a copy of Amy's book, Not So Perfect Mom, which is also available on audiobook, strongly encourage you to get it because it is filled with this conversation of how to build this heart connection with your children in order to strengthen their faith. And the Visionary Parenting, if you're like, well, what about dads? The Visionary Parenting book also is going to give you a game plan for building this safe home emotionally and spiritually so that you can do that discipleship work. You can find Not So Perfect Mom and Visionary Parenting on Amazon as well as our website, visionaryfam.com. And we'd love to hear from you about today's episode. You've got thoughts or questions, or you've got some prayer needs. Maybe you are struggling with anger in your home. Maybe this whole vision of having an affectionate family is something that's just so far from your experience right now, and you need the Lord to give you a breakthrough of healing. We'd love to pray for you. You can email us directly at podcast@visionaryfam.com. That's podcast@visionaryfam.com. If you're not already a subscriber or a follower of the podcast, take a moment right now and click that button, click that notification bell so you don't miss upcoming episodes. And if you were thinking about someone today as you were listening to the show, oh, they would love this, click the share button right now. Send it to them. Help us, partner with us to help more families around the world follow Jesus. And we look forward to our next time together with you on Family Vision.